Metaphysical objects, things that exist in an expanded sense. Ontology, the study of being, asks whether abstract objects exist and the usefulness of the question. The realness in something is in its descriptors and effects. If it has composition and effects, is it not pertinent to consider whether that thing be physical or immaterial? So let's go over that together. First, what is the difference between a concrete object and an abstract object? Concrete objects occupy space and time and have causal power, which is the capacity of an entity to produce a specific effect in the material world under appropriate conditions. A paper cup is a concrete object. You can hold and interact with it. A computer is a concrete object, as well as all of its components and accessories. They are physical things. Abstract objects are entities that do not exist in space and time and cannot physically interact with or affect the world of substance. They lack causal power but hold significance in our minds, which can be very powerful. Evolution and history are examples of abstract objects. These are both processes, things that are expanse and take place over great spans of time. Electricity, another process. The computer is powered by the flow of electric charge, primarily carried by electrons in solid conductors like copper wire. This makes the electricity in the computer an abstract object. The software, too, is abstract in nature. The running code is a set of instructions, but it physically does not exist as a single thing. When computers store data, they alter the electrical state of microscopic components in the memory cells of chips. The chips are concrete objects. You can see and touch them, but the data is a change in the medium, a state shift rather than a thing inside of the screen or keyboard. And so even though you can use software to great effect and achieve things with data, it is still an abstract object, real but not concrete. Events are abstract objects. A birthday or graduation have real significance with no one structure. Here you can see the spatial configurations can vary greatly. Size, people, location, and time, all inspecific and unnecessary to consider until you have one. Social objects like money, corporations, governments, these are all abstract objects as well, and share the changing and multiplicitous character that is inherent in these constructs. Abstract objects, being unbound by the same physical constraints that restrict concrete objects, have indeterminate boundaries, though the weight of their existence and even their makeup is subject to perception. This brings to mind the consideration of when parts become a whole and how many degrees of change it takes before the thing being considered becomes something entirely different, even in the case of the physical, such as in the paradox of Theseus' ship. Are things things or collections of particles? This is mereology, the study of parthood relations. That gradual shift in composition, the continuity of identity over time, is a key consideration. Is anything concrete? The difference between an abstract and metaphysical object, and this may be semantic depending on your concerns because abstract objects are in the category of metaphysical entities, but there are examples where it's an important distinction. The abstract object is a non-physical thing with no existence in space and time. The concrete object is a tangible thing, and the metaphysical object is a conceptual entity composed of properties of both. It's an umbrella term that also includes math concepts, qualia, which is the irreducible properties of sensory experience, and incorporeal entities like the mind or the spirit. The chair is a concrete object, but the chair I'm going to buy when this one gets old is a metaphysical object. It exists and has causal power, but it's inspecific in that I don't know where it is or what it looks like. So the composite chair and idea of the chair in the future tense form the metaphysical version. The song you most recently listened to is an abstract object, being simply a disturbance of air induced by a vibrating speaker. But the song as it exists in people's minds, as it ripples through time and is played. This song, when it plays, is a metaphysical object. You have the physical layer, the conceptual layer, and then the merging of the two. Causality has been assigned to the song and not the speaker. The physical world has been changed by an abstraction. You have been shaped by both concrete and abstract things, so considering the boundary between the two when it comes to your identity is useful. There is an exchange between the physical self and the environment that can be described using these metaphysical objects, and the effect that they have on our world is not only evident, but goes without saying. These are thinking tools. The boundary status here trains the mind to think along the structural lines of an idea when doing critical analysis or problem solving. The ultimate aspiration being turning inward and using this tool to analyze the self. Examining the way you think of yourself to become more in tune with the layered considerations of our reality is the goal of all this thinking. Learning this will be a process of uncovering what is hidden by the status quo, because the mundanity of life embeds within us the tendency to not confront the self, opting instead to confront actions, confusing them with self. Abstract objects store their causal power in concrete things, even ourselves, then go on to change the world, and us right along with it. Abstraction is a portal to the infinite, in that the shifting boundaries between a thing and its surroundings, or a thing and the forces that act upon it, come into focus. The brain and central nervous system are like this. The nervous system interacts with the environment through a continuous loop. Sensory input occurs, it is processed by the brain, and this triggers motor output. This makes your environment just as much a part of yourself as what you ate for lunch. It gives you a chance to become the metaphysical entity, to inhabit this idea and grow from it. Before we began delving into the mysteries of the brain and its neural mechanisms, we looked outward at the vastness of the cosmos, creating astral theology, where the planets and stars were direct manifestations of the gods. The constellation is an abstract. This collection of stars only appears to be grouped together because of your perspective. There is nothing outside of their solitary characteristics that binds them, except for you. So then you too must be compared to this constellation, a finite grouping of cells that consolidates just before birth, then lives as a dynamic flow of real parts. At time of death, there is suspiciously little physical material that links you to your origins, mostly memories stored as groups of neurons and their possible firing patterns, which is not even completely reliable as a retrieval method. Today, the physical universe is described by the Consensus Standard Model, or Lambda CDM, which states the cosmos evolved from a hot and dense state known as the Big Bang. Theories of cosmic origin suffer from underdetermination, meaning that the available empirical data is not sufficient to definitively prove a single theory, and that multiple competing theories can fit this same set of data. The boundaries of space and time are not yet accounted for. They may never be fully understood. Speculative physics proposes unobservable multiverses, but if it cannot be observed, then how can it be considered scientific truth? And how useful is it to go that big? If I can't cross over into the extra universe or other dimension and bring back some kind of knowledge or good, then what good is it thinking about this? The point at which an abstract concept crosses over into your physical reality as consequence, it becomes actionable. So this lens then is helpful because it provides you a means of anticipation. The universe as we know it, and as we do not, may go on forever. That is to say, it is possibly infinite. But the mind evolved to operate with finite quantities, so to deal with this concept of forever, it uses recursive logic and conceptual loops. The concept of infinity allows scientists and mathematicians to solve complex but practical real-world problems. From computer science to calculus, geometry and physics, this is used as a vital shorthand for endless processes. But what is the expiration date on such a concept? If I want to use this in my everyday life, then what is grandiosity or granularity beyond usefulness? There is a point at which conceptualizing some minutiae that may have effect becomes quibbling. But if you boil the question down to the essentials, the math of the thing, then you can find a distribution of normals that carries weight for you and set a cutoff point manually. This is the beauty of statistics. You should start with the statistics, get good numbers. It's something to hold on to if you can reasonably assure that the data was collected fairly and reliably. If you're collecting this data yourself, then get good instruments. The measurement of the environment comes at the cost of time and technology. Break down everything of consideration into its logical parts and then ask, what can I quantify and where are the largest unknowns? The unknowns may largely be explorable only with the faculties of the mind in the case of the very far off, but for the here and now, there is a host of information available on nearly everything. Constructing your viewpoint, making considerations, and then testing what you can is the next step once you've studied the landscape. With the metaphysical, be rigorous with the concrete and reasonable but open-minded with the intangibles that come with it. Everything comes with intangibles, even free will. If you think free will exists, then you should will yourself to like this video. Thanks for watching.